Good evening. My name is Amy Bach. I'm one of the founders of the nonprofit United Policyholders. Thank you for making time out of your busy schedules to be with us tonight for this installment of our Roadmap to Recovery webinar program, where we give you information, strategies, and support on your journey recovering from last year's or the year before's wildfires. Tonight, we're going to be talking about settling your dwelling insurance claim, collecting all available policy funds for replacing your wildfire-destroyed home. And you can follow along with me. I will be sharing my screen and you'll be able to see the slides. And you don't need to take notes if you want to just relax and listen, because the slide deck that I'm going to be using tonight for the program is already up on our website, and you'll be able to watch it at your convenience, as will the recording of tonight. So if you feel like I don't, we're here to try to help you not stress. So if it will help you to be able to absorb the information without taking notes, you're welcome to do that. And know that if you miss something, you'll be able to watch the recording in the next few days. We'll usually get the recording up pretty fast. So a little bit about us. We're a 501c3. That means we're a nonprofit. We're a consumer organization with a 35-year track record and expertise in wildfire recovery with a focus on financial and emotional recovery. We're not for profit, not for sale. We don't take money from insurance companies. We're funded by donations and grants, and we offer guidance, tools, and strategies for navigating the road to recovery after a catastrophic loss. We've been advocating for fair insurance practices and consumer protection laws and regulations since 1991. I'm very proud to have a professional staff. I've got three of them with us tonight. Ben Letourneau, who is on tech, Annie Barber, who is our resident survivor expert and our major boots on the ground for the LA fires as well as the mountain fire. And then Alexis Ricci, who is a specialist with us with a background in insurance claims. We also have a lot of partners. We work closely with a lot of the state government agencies, elected officials, and then we have an incredible team of volunteers that includes people who've been there, done that, walked in the shoes that you are wearing now after losing their homes or having their homes be severely damaged, as well as consumer-oriented professionals. We have two of them with us today, Matt Everson and Reza Akif. Did I say that right? Is it Akif or Akif? I'm so sorry.
You said it correctly,
Oh,
Akif.
good. Okay, Akif. Great. So we have two outstanding consumer-oriented professionals with us, both of whom are deep, deep in the work that's going on in Los Angeles and very familiar with the challenges that you're going through and probably the reasons why you're here tonight. These are our three programs, and just a short mention, we were up in Sacramento yesterday before the Senate Insurance Committee. These are some of the bills that we are supporting and helping move through that address some of the issues that you're dealing with. And it was interesting because some of the issues that we're going to hit on tonight, like when an insurance company has to release or commit to you to release your extended replacement funds, got discussed yesterday in Sacramento, because some of the problems you're having are because there are some gray areas. And we're here to give you as much support as we can to get through those gray areas. Those are the libraries that we have set up for your communities. Just a reminder that we're not here to give you legal advice. We're here to give you guidance, and that our speakers are very graciously volunteering their time as educators. Okay, so these are the topics we're going to be covering tonight. I'm not going to read the list to you because we have lots of material we're going to get through, and there are little slides that tell you when we're getting to the next topic. The dwelling claim process in real life, right? So nothing like most people have ever experienced before, right? Losing your home, hopefully for most people, is a one-time thing. And dealing with a major insurance claim, hopefully also a one-time thing. But we're here to sort of remind you of how it's supposed to be going. 14 months in. So your insurer does owe you to replace what you had up to your policy limits. Most people don't want to rebuild the exact same house they had. But if your insurer thinks you're trying to profit, they will balk. So if they think you're trying to build bigger, better, that's going to cause a problem. But what's confusing is the way they adjust losses sometimes is that they skip a step, and we're going to be talking about the step that if it's been skipped can get you stuck in not agreeing with them on what they owe you. So it's easier to reach a full and fair claim settlement if your as was costs are well documented. That's the step that sometimes gets skipped, including code upgrades that would have been required if you did rebuild the same house that you lost. Even if you don't intend to do that, that's what your insurer owes you. And so that's just a key thing to kind of really digest here. And of course, adjusters have different levels of skill and intelligence, and sometimes they don't even know what the rules are here in California. So part of our drill is to help you know what the rules are so that you can tell them if they are not following them. There really are a lot of approaches to settling a dwelling claim. There's not one cookie cutter way. Um, Generally, the insurer's adjuster prepares a replacement cost estimate, replacement cost value, RCV, usually with software, sometimes via a builder they're connected with. And then they issue you a check for ACV, actual cash value, until those funds get spent. That's a generalization. Obviously, we have the law in California that you were supposed to get some funds already. And by now, we hope you've gotten all or most of your coverage A and your other structures, but we're here because we're hearing that a lot of you have not. We recommend not skipping that step of documenting what you had, but getting your own scope and estimate to verify the accuracy of what the insurance company is telling you they owe you for the dwelling. Many people skip that step and you just go ahead and get an estimate for the home you want to build, not the one that you had, right? So these are some of the answers you want before you start your rebuild. And we're very excited for you to start your rebuild. And later in the program, I'll give you a save the date for the next Roadmap to Recovery webinar we'll be doing, led by Annie Barber, on avoiding and solving problems during a post-wildfire rebuild. But tonight, we're just talking about that budget and making sure you've got the biggest budget that is available to you from your insurance, right? So how much insurance money will be available to me and when? What will trigger my insurer's obligation to pay all available benefits? Has my insurer agreed to a fair as-was scope, or do we still need to reach agreement on the replacement cost value of what I lost, including code upgrades? Will my insurance be enough to cover the cost of rebuilding a like, kind, and quality home or the home I want to build? And finally, if I don't have enough insurance to replace what I lost or build the home I want to build, what sources can I tap? And we will get to that in a minute, Annie. Sorry. Okay. Collecting maximum available policy benefits. We already talked about this. They owe you as was in here in California. There's some special laws. Your policy has to give you at least 10% of your dwelling limit towards the cost of code upgrades, right? So that is the city or county says this is the rules your project has to comply with if you want to get a building permit or a certificate of occupancy. So your project has to be legal, right? And if there are things that were outdated in your old place that would need to be upgraded, that is your code. Those are your code upgrades, right? And again, I'm sure by now a lot of you know a lot of this. I just need to make sure we're reviewing the basics. It's important to remember that the insurer's estimate to replace your dwelling is not the final word on what they owe you. You have the right to challenge or fix their calculations and get your own scope and estimate to do that. Ideally, you and your insurer agree on the as-was scope of the loss, how many rooms, what kind of flooring, what kind of countertops, and what the quality of the materials, hardwood, etc., that were in the original home, right? That's the ideal. And just again, you don't have to rebuild the identical home, but your payout is generally going to be based on the cost of a like, kind, and quality to what you did lose, right? And code upgrades have to be listed and priced specifically, and that's something that a lot of adjusters skip. So these are just a few illustrations. This is a common um, declarations page, right? That page that I'm sorry to say, I'm sure you're all familiar with, that basically lays out what you have in each category, right? And we've got the color coding. By now, I'm sure a lot of you are way more familiar than you ever would have liked to be with what's in your policy. But these are the basic buckets that can be applied to replace your dwelling. So the dwelling, your other structures by law in California, the code upgrades, a minimum of 10%, an inflation adjustment. If you bought extended replacement, that as well. And a lot of people do end up using some of their contents money to replace their dwelling. We recommend with debris removal that you hold that money as long as you possibly can and not use it towards your dwelling in case the county comes back and asks you to reimburse them what you got from your insurance company for your debris removal. So if you did participate in coordinated debris removal, you signed a document that gave them the ability to get your debris removal benefits. Okay. Um, Obviously, the dwelling coverage is the big ticket. You have to do your math to figure out what is coming your way. This is just a sample of a worksheet that you could use to keep track of what you have. This is a summary of loss that some State Farm policyholders have gotten that kind of lays out from their perspective what is available to you, and then a little bit of an accounting of what they've paid. Not all insurers do this, and you also want to check their math on this as well. This is the California law that says you get to combine your other structure coverage without replacing the other structure, and just put that into your main budget. Okay. Annie, you want to cover this?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So the biggest thing about this is everybody's underinsured, and we find that it doesn't matter which disaster, it's just varying degrees. Um, the Small Business Administration, the SBA loan, is for homeowners and small businesses. And we have been told that if you go in, if you have not applied for it yet, or you want to increase it, you should go into the Collaboratory in Altadena or the American Legion in the Palisades. And if you go in person and you tell them you were just too traumatized to deal with this at the beginning, you didn't know what your loss was, they will allow you to apply. If you try to do it online, it's a flat no. We don't know how long they're going to be at these locations. Before we had been told April 11th was a guarantee. So get down there quickly. A loan from a bank or a credit union, you prefer the SBA because it's going to be a lower interest rate. Your savings, your retirement funds, gap funding loans, and your lawsuit settlement. I highly recommend that you make darn sure that you have enough money before you proceed to, if you wait for your lawsuit, we're anticipating it'll be 2 more years before you get that, and that's a guesstimate. But you don't want to have a half-built house. So if you can stay within the parameters of what you have already, that would be the best case scenario.
Thank you. And I neglected to say at the beginning, we are going to be answering the questions that got submitted to us, and thank you to those who submitted questions. And then, time permitting, we will open up the chat. But any questions that don't get answered here, we also have our Ask an Expert forum, and we will do our best to answer your questions in the content that we're presenting to you. So we encourage people to think of your insurance checks as a starting point, unless you have maxed out and you've done the math and you're sure that you have maxed out, in which case you probably wouldn't even be on this program tonight. So you are generally the way it works is, as I said earlier, your insurer will pay actual cash value, a depreciated amount of their replacement estimate until there's proof those funds have been spent and replacement is underway. So ACV first, then RCV as you submit proof. And varying types of proof can suffice to get the insurer to release more funds, a signed contract with the builder, paid invoices, proof of payment for materials and labor, etc. The insurer should commit to paying extended replacement cost funds when replacement cost value above dwelling limits has been established. Now, this is one of those topics that came up yesterday in Sacramento, and it's clearly a gray area as to, and we know that a lot of people are having problems because you want to start rebuilding, but if you don't know what your budget is, it makes it very hard to do that. So getting your insurer to commit that you are definitely can count on those extended replacement funds is really important. And one of the places you can go to get help, well, yourself, this is a sample letter requesting claim-related documents. You have the right in California, we're one of the only states that gives you this right to request, and the insurer has to give you documents in your claim file. So you can request all documents, including estimates, drafts, reports, calculations, notes, and measurements, and that should show you how they came up with their estimate of the replacement cost value. If you're stuck on this question of that you need to know, are they committing to pay your extended replacement or not? You can open a complaint with the Department of Insurance. They won't be your free lawyer, but on that topic, I think they may be of some help. These are some of the professional help resources that are there for you: estimators, public adjusters, construction experts, attorneys, and that's a link to our California Find Help directory. It's a small number of professionals, but it's a good place to start. Okay, let's talk about what a scope of loss is versus an estimate. It's a detailed room by room, itemized listing and description of the components and the features of the home you lost with measurements, types of materials, quantities, qualities, sizes, and shapes, not prices. Okay, it defines what was there, right? How's that different from an estimate? An estimate is a calculation of the cost of rebuilding a destroyed dwelling that includes all costs that will be incurred to replace it, including materials, labor, supervision, and upgrades. So an estimate can be based on a scope or plans or drawings or the general knowledge of the builder, right? Many builders put their estimates together based on what they know about what it costs. So Reza, do you as a general contractor use Xactimate, or how do you prepare your estimates?
That's a softball question because there's no general contractor that uses an out of date and archaic program that the insurance companies use because those 90 pages of depreciating value of what your home was that you lived in and did not think was depreciated, but was your shelter, your safety, your loving nest where you raised your children and celebrated holidays. A piece of software cannot by any means evaluate. For us, I think, and Matt will talk about this as a scope of loss statement is more appropriate. And really, what that is it takes what a general contractor like myself, we might have 9 sections in our contract, which are general construction requirements, foundation, waterproofing, interior finishes, exterior finishes, and miscellaneous items. Uh, Matt will take that and then expand upon that and add more details that we wouldn't add, like, for example, your baseboard being 4 inches or 6 inches or something like that. But this idea of Xactimate is so silly and it's so unfair. And, you know, the better way to prepare an estimate is to start with the contractor and then work with someone like Matt to really get it done for your insurance carrier that way and challenge them.
Yep, yep. Thank you. So capturing all as was rebuild costs, including code upgrades. So as Reza was alluding to, it's all about the detail, right? Um, n Not just the big picture, but the little picture, right? The details. These are some of the sources of documentation that people can use to describe your pre-loss condition. A lot of people, of course, lost their plans in the fire or they didn't have them. They're an older home. So these are just a few of the sources. Um, so scoping and estimating the cost to replace as was to reach an agreement on what your insurer owes you, obviously, is not necessary if the insurer has paid full policy limits. But if you don't know if they've paid full policy limits, it's great that you're here with us, right? If they've cashed you out, though, and you're pretty sure that what they've paid you is everything you're owed, then you can,
Go have dinner.
yeah, you can go have dinner and come back on May 21st for the avoiding and solving problems during your rebuild. Okay, so the builder who will be building your replacement home may help you prepare an as-was scope and estimate, but a lot of times they just don't want to go there, right? Somebody like Reza, I'm sure you probably got asked to do this a lot, but like he's got to be he wants to be building homes. He doesn't want to be there in the paperwork business. Am I right, Reza?
So you are. Admittedly, when the fire first happened, I'm a Palisades builder. We were out of work essentially. Anything we were building was either, if it did survive, which we were blessed that two did survive, but two did burn. But you're either frozen in time while those two deal with the insurance, and the other two are destroyed, and they're dealing with insurance. So at first, my partner and I, in the business, we extended an olive branch to help as many as we could. But genuinely speaking, it actually turned out that we weren't helping, being as effective. We were helping, but we weren't, us dealing with the insurance company as people who aren't speaking their language is ultimately um, but not worth our time, because we're builders. We want to build your home. But
Yep.
we know today's value. And we might add too much detail where someone like Matt will know the right amount of detail to add. I can share that in one instance, someone had really expensive doors and windows that was a special kind of wood in the alphabets. And we said that in the insurance bit. And insurance said, well, go prove it to us that that's that. Well, they don't even make that anymore. So we offered a detail. We thought we were helping our client. Excuse me. We offered our client this detail, we thinking we were helping them, but it actually turned out the insurance then pretty much hung their hook in that one item. Everything else was fine, and they said, "Prove to us that the windows should be $120,000."
Right.
When really, like, yeah, you're right. Like, we can't even buy those windows anymore. But you asked for a like for like, and we told you what it would have cost.
Right.
So really, ultimately, we can make a good budget for you, and then you can give it to your adjuster or your attorney, and they can go and defend you with your insurance company.
Thank you. So yeah, so um this has been this sort of professional category of a scope and estimate provider doesn't really exist in real life other than in commercial, normal life, I would say. Outside of disasters, normally the only time a construction estimator is tapped is for a big commercial project, usually. So it's been only since we've been having these large fires in California that this profession developed that you can pay somebody like Matt or some of these other resources that we have in our find help directory. Matt, you want to tell us? Actually, we're jumping a little bit here to code upgrades, but so I'm actually gonna skip this slide for a minute and ask you to go back, Matt. What do you
Okay.
do? What is it you do, Matt?
Well, actually, we live in Santa Rosa, so I'm sorry that you're all on this call because you've gone through something our town went through 8 years ago. Just like Annie, I'm up in Santa Rosa. And I actually went to this talk in person back before we did Zoom things. And the crowd was not happy about this scope of loss thing. And I had time on my hands. I just sold a business, and I asked Amy, so how do you do these? And that's how we got into this. It's a partner of mine, Bill Wallace, who's very good. He knows that stupid software Reza was talking about. It is a antiquated software. It's not something builders use on a general basis, but they do use it in commercial builds, and Bill knew it. And so what do? We do what the insurance companies don't want you to figure out how to do, which is we come up with your measure of indemnity. And if you go into the California Insurance Code, you can find a very simple explanation of that. I think it's 2051.5. And if you ask 1,000 insurance adjusters what the measure of indemnity it means, you'll get 1,000 people that say, I don't know. They don't know. But the code requires you, that's the key to everything. It unlocks everything. If you can determine the cost to rebuild the home that you lost, soup to nuts, architectural fees, engineering fees, general conditions, all the way back to code upgrades at the end, and get the insurance company to agree with you on that number, now you know your budget. And now you can hold them to their contract. You have a contract with them. It's a policy. And the contract stipulates your limits. So that's what we do is we use that software if needed. Bill and I are actually developing, and we've been working on this all year, a more compact version of that exact estimate. And we've got several insurance companies to accept it so far, so that we don't have to spend as much time and charge as much money to do these. One estimate of a 2,000 square foot home, an Exactimate, done right. And when I say done right, I'll back up and talk, and they won't sue me if I say this. Exactimate's numbers are wrong. And the reason I know they won't sue me is because in their own legal disclaimers, they say they don't warrant the accuracy of their numbers. How about that? And they say they should check with a builder. You should check with a builder.
So we did.
Yeah, so that's
we
what we
did.
do is we set this up in Exactimate, but Bill has to price everything to, when I go down and talk to people in Los Angeles, I'm talking to people like Reza, like, what are you charging for this? What are you getting out of this? So that we can justify the expenses we put in there. And it does take us somewhere around 30 to 40 hours to do a 2,000 square foot home in that stupid software. So we're working with the software today to try and make this easier. And you can email me and get more information about that. But it is the choke point on a lot of this, and it needs to change. And so we're working on that. I know Reza, folks like you guys at United Policyholders are working on that. We take that estimate, you can submit it to your insurance company, and then what they usually do is go, oh no, we could build 3 houses for that price. And so you have to talk them through it.
All right. So our second question. What upgrades are commonly required by LA County? Same question as to the city. Reza, you want to start generally, or you want to pass this to Matt?
Didn't we have a wonderful list we put together?
We do. We do.
You want me to use my brain? It's been a long day.
No, it's fine.
I'll just tell you this. It's not a county thing or a city thing. This is the Universal Builders Code. This is the code that California adopts. Now, some cities and counties have some stuff on top of that Reza knows better than me, but these are universal throughout California. And
let me add a caveat that all of us discussed in planning this panel today was one thing that we unfortunately learned along the way helping our clients is that that code upgrades only apply, and I think this is very important, only if your house didn't have it at the time of the fire. So I think this is really important to say. We're helping over, I think we're at last night, we're either 45, 47 families get home. I don't know if my partner signed anybody today, but I don't think he did. But that's the horrible part. So when we talk about code upgrades, someone may have not had sprinklers because their house was built in the 1960s, but that someone whose house may have built in the 1990s actually may have surprisingly had sprinklers because that previous owner was forward thinking. So that person in the 1960s gets the code upgrade for fire sprinklers, but that owner in the 1990s or 2000s doesn't. A lot of these things, like smoke detectors, I think that's from like the 2000s. So your house probably had it. Carbon monoxide, I think that was like 2010. Electrical's a really great one. I will say we are working with the mayor's office, Mayor Bass, and LADWP to hopefully come up with something where they can say that the undergrounding of electrical and the combo panel that they're asking for is a code upgrade for the fire resilience of the Palisades, although it's not a per se statutory code upgrade. It is a requirement for homeowners to go underground, which every insurance company should
Should want,
So
recognize.
that's an
right.
ordinance or a law. So if the city of Los Angeles says we're undergrounding, that's a new ordinance or law. It'll be a challenge. I just want to clarify something on code upgrades. If you're down in the how do you say this? The bluffs down there, the El Medio bluffs.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. You had a foundation under your home when the home burned down. The soil there is very loose, and it's if you get an engineer's geotechnical soils report right now, they may tell you, depending on the size of your home, that you need caissons. You didn't have caissons before. Okay, you still had a foundation, so you have to figure out what would it have cost to build that foundation the way it was before. That's what goes on coverage A. And then the extra cost for the caissons or the grade beams or whatever they're going to cause you to have per engineering, that's code upgrade stuff. So it's not quite if you didn't have it, it's is the code changed as to what you had or what you didn't have, and is that causing this cost to rebuild that home as it was to be more?
Amy, are panelists allowed to ask other panelists questions?
Well, yeah,
Because I
sure.
just thought of something that
Yeah.
applies to at least all the Palisades that I know. So Matt, would R&R, so Army Corps came in, ripped out all these foundations, and now we have to do this R&R. And
Hmm.
when you do this R&R, we end up paying maybe 6,000 for a geologist to self-certify it. We end up paying about 30,000 for the R&R per property. And then plus you're shipping soil away because when you mix soil, it loses some of its density. So you end up 5 grand in trucks for leaving. Can all of this be part of code upgrade?
Yeah, good question, Reza.
No,
Tell the
no,
crowd what R&R means.
I'm gonna insurance lawyer in here. Soil is not covered, land is not covered. So unfortunately, no. Now,
But now,
soil
Amy, you
stable,
can get that soil that's trucked out of there as part of
well,
your debris removal.
well, possibly, right. Soil restabilization can be covered.
Well, no, that's what it
One,
is. So when we're doing, it's
But it's not
required.
necessarily a code upgrade.
It's
It's
an
no,
a
R&R. We have
it's
to
a,
do it before we can
right,
build the house.
right,
yeah, it's a
right,
site, a general condition to get the house ready to build. And
right.
typically the insurance companies are going to argue with you that's not a code upgrade. That's just standard building. But do notate when you're talking about bringing that soil out of there and taking it away, that's debris removal. You can argue it, and they
Well,
may not do it,
you can
but
argue it. And it may be like a coverage like, do I have enough limits?
yeah.
Did my limits get, yeah. So one thing that is another gray area is because there's been all this pressure, to there's from some quarters to waive some of the code, right? There's been a lot of back and forth about whether the code is going to be enforced by the county and city. When people are underinsured, they're saying, please don't, add costs to my project. So there's been a lot of back and forth on that. So there may be some gray areas as to whether this is in fact a rule. Is it an ordinance? Is it a law? Or is it a directive? Or what is it? The other issue that seems to be a gray area for some people is the insurers are saying that we should be required to only to the extent that the code, the new code was in place at the time of the loss, right? So that one of the bills that's pending that we testified in support of yesterday has a provision that says the insurance company has to pay for compliance with the codes that are enforced at the time that
Of
rebuilding
the
is
build.
is feasible, right? So an unsettled area. So Matt, for standing homes, what documentation and supporting evidence do they need to access their ordinance and law coverage?
Yeah, that's a great question, SJ. There isn't really any sort of centralized source on this. If you go back to the beginning of this, Amy could probably tell why this coverage category exists. I'd love you guys to start to to petition the state to just there's no need for this category. Just what do I need to build? The the fact of the matter is that it's the code changes every 3 years. Most of California adopts that new change, and it goes into effect January of this year. A new set of rules came on. Not that many changes this year, but we worked with architects and civil engineers up here to come up with our list. If you go online, the Santa Rosa fire websites might still be up, and we gave that list to them. I
We
offered it.
that list is on our website. The one,
Okay,
are you talking
that's
about
a
the
pretty
one
good
that the
starting point. That's a
okay.
pretty good starting point. Now that's 8 years ago. Some things have changed. Like for example, 2019 solar panels came on. 2022 battery backups came in. Certain things have changed, but and then the governor this summer said you don't have to get solar panels, and that's gave the insurance companies all this license to say, well, we're going to see what they enforce and what they don't, because other states do it that way. You walk into the building department, the builder says, you don't have to worry about that one this time.
So
California doesn't do it that
I
way.
I did research on this one, and actually what's happened is that because Title 24 has become so stringent, even if the governor says you don't need solar, I urge everyone, your contractor may have even missed it because we admittedly missed it on one house. Solar is required.
Yeah. The governor
Be-
reversed himself in November.
so your Title 24 may actually require solar, even though
Yes.
you weren't even planning to put solar on your home.
No, it definitely does require it, but what it is now is an election, which is goofy anyways.
No,
I think
no, no, Matt. Like the building inspector will not let us. We won't get CFO without solar panels because Title 24 requires it,
that's
even
right.
if the governor is saying no to it. Because we could have had Title 24 engineered a different way to not require the solar panels.
So I guess to answer that previous question, there is a list on the United Policyholder website. That's a good starting place. What you really need to do is document what it would have cost without this upgrade, what
Right.
it costs now, and what's the difference. That's your code upgrade coverage. What's the difference? And then the insurance companies like to ask you for those exact building codes. So you can always call us and email us, and we can help you with that.
Thank you. Okay. Alexis, people have been hearing plenty from me, so I'm going to have you take the first
Hey.
crack. Our staff member, I'm sorry, former public adjuster, Alexis Ricci, have at it.
Hi, everyone. Kudos to you who are going through the rebuild and your insurance. It is challenging. We all know that. How do you deal with your extended replacement cost? As Matt and Risa talked about, you want to start with apples and apples. You want to get a rebuild estimate for what you had at the time of the loss. Start with that. Make sure that it is as detailed and accurate as possible, and then work on dollar figures. So get that estimate out to a contractor for evaluation, and then go back to your carrier and say, this is what I've got. I've got a contractor who's going to do this work. It's what I had. I've got a signed contract. When can I tap into that extended replacement cost coverage? What does that process look like? Be really upfront and talk to your adjuster. They want to try to get you money. Believe me, as a former carrier adjuster, they want to try to help you get your house rebuilt. Sometimes their hands are tied with the policy languaging or management. So find out exactly what you need. Sometimes they'll give you that extended replacement cost as you start the rebuild. And you don't have to wait till the very end. But a lot of times there is language in your policy that stipulates you need to incur that cost. You need to use all of your coverage A and other structure methods. All right. And you should try to get an agreement, of course, before you start your construction project. So you know that if you do need to tap in, like Annie talked about earlier, extra money and funds, you know how much that is going to be so that you're not upside down and you're stopping your construction 3/4 of the way through because you ran out of money and you can't get more from your carrier.
So, I mean, really, this keeps coming back to the same point. The the best thing to do is to have gotten an agreement, reached an agreement with your insurance company over the replacement cost value of the home. And there are other ways to do that. There's something called appraisal that you can do, but generally people can do it by negotiation and having good documentation, which is why we're here to talk about that, what makes good documentation. Annie, this person's asking about a good rebuilding budget Excel spreadsheet. Could it be shared? And because we got this question, we actually go ahead, Annie. You can answer.
Yeah, we asked one of our partners if they could create something for us for our survivors, and they did, and it's very detailed. Um, and what I recommend, I took a good look at it. There's if depending on how you're rebuilding, um, it will have value. You don't want to reduce anything until you know how you're rebuilding. So all those lines have meaning until you know that you're doing a production build or a semi-custom where you're getting your money. So this Excel sheet
So it's
is,
the one that says construction progress and payment. So this is the link and you scroll down and it's the one that says, yeah, construction progress. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
yeah, and I think it's great. I think that you print it up. That's what I did. And you just line out the things that will not pertain to your build. But it's a great way of keeping track, pluses and minuses, and making sure that you stay on track financially.
Thank you. Alexis, here's another one for you. I have submitted 3 bids for building that are far above my dwelling limit, including the ERC. But I'm trying to get that extra 50. Is that before building? This is kind of similar to the question you just answered. I'm told so far I have to build, then submit receipts. So do you stick with that as accurate?
Yeah, it's going to be accurate. And again, it goes back down to policy languaging. Typically on the ERC coverage, you need to incur it, go back to your adjuster. You don't necessarily have to wait until the very end of your construction process to get that whole bucket of ERC money if you're entitled to it. Find out what you can get from your carrier, even in piecemeal, and what you need to support, what you need to give the carrier to support those payments.
Can I add here? I think that
Sure.
also make the request and
Mhm.
a couple times. Don't be shy about that. Most people are very underinsured, and some of these insurance companies will finally give up and say, "Yeah, let's just close this up."
Cash you out. Yeah. Yeah. And we have a sample letter in that section of our library that I just have the link to for asking for a cash out settlement. Okay, Annie, if you had Army Corps do debris removal, but it was only partial and you still have a pool and driveway, people said they come back asking for payment. How does this work?
So the way the Army Corp works is that they charge you, and generally it's way over what you have in your bucket of debris removal. You should be able to bill back. So in my case, I was able to, Army Corp came in, brought their big excavators, they cracked my sidewalks and my driveway. I was able to replace those and bill back to the county when my bill came in. So if you have any questions about what in particular they will take care of, I really recommend you go down and talk to them.
The
But
county,
the county, yeah,
the county of Los Angeles. Yeah. Okay. Or the city if you're in their jurisdiction.
yeah, they are the ones who are going to actually be collecting your debris removal money. Your insurance company may come back, they give a certain amount for debris removal, and then all of a sudden they say, oh, we have this other bucket of debris removal, and that may be for your content. So just don't be surprised that there are different buckets.
Okay.
Now,
All right.
I just want to add that in the city of LA,
Mhm.
there isn't that option. So, and city of LA, the county, even though the county was responsible for the debris removal, the sidewalks belong to the city, and you can't go back and bill for those.
Okay. Well, thanks for
So
clarifying that.
we're hoping that, FEMA pays for that.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
want to go back 2 slides to that question you had about getting your money before you've built or incurred. That would, any insurance company can make an exception. The way to incentivize them to make that exception is to get contracted to build. Bids don't mean anything.
Yeah.
And everybody on this call, if they're not in contract to build, is probably receiving pressure about their rent, about their ALE. Get a contract to build. You have to make a decision, and that's one way to give them a little bit of impetus to release more of that money.
Understood, but I think also a lot of people haven't decided yet
Well, in that case, yeah.
what
Yeah.
they want, whether they want to buy a rebuild. They just need to know what their budget is going to be, and that's why we're here. So
They got to talk to me first.
okay. So reaching a full and fair dwelling claim settlement. We're going back to some of the stuff we covered in the beginning just to reinforce, right? So problems can arise when you try to negotiate a settlement using a bid to build the new home, that is different from what you had, right? And as we said earlier, the dollars are in the details. If there's a gap between the insurer's numbers and yours, you want to isolate why. Is the scope complete? Are the details for the interior finishes correct? Are the prices accurate? Are there missing categories? Matt, if I get an as-was rebuild estimate from an estimator, what should I do with it? How can I use it to negotiate with my insurer?
And this is a great question from somebody like me. You should give it to your insurance company adjuster and use these 3 words: proof of loss. Again, it's like the measure of indemnity. They won't tell you anything about that, but it's written right there in your policy that you're supposed to submit proof of loss, usually within 60 days, which is impossible. But if you put it in like that, as opposed to this is a building estimate, if I say this is my proof of loss, they have to deal with it differently. There's all kinds of little terminology that's hidden inside the insurance code that gets these adjusters' bells rung. That's one of them. Now they have to review that estimate and look at it, and they have 40 business days to get back to you. If you just say, "Hey, I got an estimate from a builder," they just sneakily sometimes will just sit on it. And I've seen insurance companies sit on these estimates for months. So use those words. Be gentle but persistent in following up. What are your thoughts on that proof of loss I submitted? What are your thoughts on that as-was rebuild estimate that I submitted? I need your thoughts on that. I'm trying to advance my claim. Another little words that help. I'm trying to advance my claim. I can't do that until I get your thoughts on that. And about once a week, I used to say, never call these guys, put everything in writing, but the real politic of this whole thing is they don't have an opportunity to really respond in writing. They're really handcuffed as to what they can put in emails sometimes. So call them.
So, and we have sample letters to help you with your communications and lots of guidance, that we've given in our previous webinars about how you can be the squeaky wheel. I feel like I need to say that there's on the category of professional help, of a public adjuster, that it is something for a lot of people to consider because, a lot of people in the beginning, they're getting solicited, and they feel like I don't want to deal, and that's fine. And you don't want to give up a piece of your insurance money. But if you are in a situation now where you feel like there's serious money on the table that your insurer is not coughing up, it's not a bad idea to talk to a public adjuster because they also will do what Matt does, but they do take a cut, obviously, of your benefits. So it's kind of Matt charges a flat fee, right, Matt? Flat
You
fee.
charge a flat fee, and that's just for the estimate, for the scope of loss.
Right.
Anything else I talk about is just my opinion, and it's free.
Right. Because he's, it's not like Matt is not a public adjuster. I want to be clear, right? He is not legally, he's got great energy, but legally he's not,
I'm not licensed to give you insurance advice.
okay.
For 25 years, I worked as a financial advisor. I used to work at Transamerica. I know a lot about insurance, but I can't get on the phone for you, which a public adjuster can do. A public adjuster becomes basically your power of attorney and can act on your behalf with the claim. And if they're a good one, they can get results. You just have to ask them to prove that they're a good one by giving you some names of some folks that they've helped that have gotten results.
Right. Very good advice. So these are some of the common omissions and errors in insurer estimates. Supervision, labor for subcontractors, their standard pricing file is not accurate as to the labor prices. code upgrades, exterior weatherproofing, everybody can read. How can I close a gap? The gap occurs when their estimate is less than yours. There's a couple of options here, right? We've been talking about them. You can get and present to your insurer detailed written estimates from reputable independent builders, but that's if you're going to be rebuilding exactly what you had. If you're not gonna, then you do have to go this extra step of getting somebody to do that as was. That's really important to understand, right? A builder like Reza will do it if it's a job he's bidding on, he's going to give you what you need for that job. But if you're not hiring him to rebuild the same house you had, he's not going to, he doesn't have the time to reconstruct a scope and an estimate on this mythical, fictitious, fake project that he's not going to do, right? It's just a practical thing for a business person. That's why somebody like Matt, is in business, right? But if you are planning to rebuild pretty much what you had, then you may not need that. Then your builder may be enough. And then if it's just this question of the insurance company saying your builder is not being reasonable about what they're charging, then that's another issue to negotiate, right? So, consider a face-to-face meeting between your selected contractor and your adjuster, or of course, if you have a public adjuster, that's where they would come in to help fortify you in your negotiations. But if your documentation is good, then you can do it on your own, but you've got to have that ammunition of that really good detailed documentation. Okay. All right. So once you provide that scope, what happens next? The insurance company will review. Maybe they'll accept it. Maybe they won't. And I'm assuming, Matt, that sometimes an insurance adjuster is going to come back to you and do they want to ask you questions about how you
All
came
the
up with
time.
your numbers?
All the time.
All the time.
Most of these insurance adjusters do not live in California, and they are shocked by the prices we come up with. I had one today from Travelers tell me that we're crazy and Exactimate's right. So I can drop in the chat the link to the Exactimate EULA that says they're not right, and they admit it. But yeah, what you said before, and it's hard, I guess, going back to that prior slide, you get good documentation from builders. Builders are so busy right now.
Busy, so busy.
And it's hard for them to do a bid for you or an estimate just on a home they're not working on. So that's where a group like ours, BW Builder, can help. We do research, we get estimates and bids from builders so that our estimates can be substantiated. But it is hard, and don't hold builders personally accountable for not wanting to take their time and give you a bid. There's 5,000 homes in each town to be built, and there's not enough of them.
Yeah. Okay. Aim to rebuild an insurable home. This is a note from your friends at United Policyholders that have been working very hard for many years to try to fix the problems in the market that left a lot of you with the FAIR plan and inadequate coverage. So the message from us is, if you can, aim to rebuild an insurable home. And by that we mean there are now standards in the state of California. There's two. There's a Safer from Wildfires, and then there's the Insurance Institute for Home and Business Safety's Wildfire Prepared Home Standard. And those are standards that say if you do this, and this, it'll be less likely that your home will be damaged or destroyed in a wildfire. So insurers, of course, because in recent years they've been very nervous about wildfire risk in California as a result of some of the big fires we've had. They have been pulling back in some areas that have had wildfires, and none of that is news to probably anybody on this webinar. So there are these new standards, the IBHS Wildfire Prepared Home, and the LA building codes require most, but not all of the things that are on that list. But because insurance companies fund the IBHS, they have a lot of confidence in their research and their scientific conclusions about why these features in a home make a big difference. And so it'll be easier for you down the road to get insurance and keep insurance if your home is wildfire prepared. So WPH is the Wildfire Prepared Home Standard. And we recommend that your contractor build to the WPH standard. And if that means that you have a gap in your available insurance funds, there is one resource that you can look into that would possibly help you cover that gap, that delta between how much insurance money you have and how much you need to meet the code. This is just a comparison of the 7A, that's the statewide building code. These are, you can see the column on the left is all the things that WPH requires, or plus, which is the even higher standard, and then the ones that are not missing. So just looking at that, Reza, it doesn't look like it's too hard to have your project meet 7A. I mean, right? It's not too hard.
Well, we were building to 7A before the fire.
Hmm.
So we were building already to 7A. I mean, let's be fair to so many people on the call. Uh, their house didn't burn down because it wasn't resilient. There were other factors at play, and I'll leave it at that. I won't get political. But uh, the issue with we talked about this. The issue with IBHS is for their plus is their 30-foot rule. In the Palisades, it's not going to work. So I can do everything except have another structure because your neighbor's going to be 10 feet away from you. How am I going to have your neighbor be 30 feet away from you? That might work in Paradise. Even in Paradise or Santa Rosa, I don't know how that works there either. I mean, your neighbor's not going to be 30 feet away from you. So I don't know how the plus just needs to get revised and but that being said, everything on that list is very practical, and don't let any contractor tell you that it's going to cost you more money. That's the important part. I want to stress that contractors, I apologize for contractors, my kin across the board who would try to use any excuse to try to charge people more money. Eric, my business partner, and I, we pride ourselves on not doing that. If you notice, I haven't said my company's name because I'm not here as a contractor who's trying to get business. I'm here as a contractor who wants people to build safely and better and just get back to our community. Um, One of the things I want to say about the only item on this list that's important that you really do is like your windows being dual tempered. That is a slight price increase, but it really depends on your window manufacturer too. So really like shop it a little bit. Like as an owner, you've already been battling with your insurance company. I hate to say to do a little bit more research on your window company, but it doesn't hurt, or at least consult a trusted contractor who's worked with different windows, or go into one of the showrooms of different big lumber companies like Ganal or First Builder's Source to go actually see the windows for yourself.
Okay.
I'm going to
Thank you.
add
Well, go
here,
ahead, Annie.
SBA has an additional 20% of your loan that you can get for mitigation. And it's a wide spectrum of what you can use it for. So if you're struggling with that, that is another. And if you did not apply for it originally, you can add it on.
Okay. All righty. All right. Settling so you can buy, not rebuild. There may be some of you, if you've hung in here this long, that are either you're sure that you don't want to rebuild, or you're still trying to decide. So just a reminder about the process of using your insurance funds to buy a replacement home. Because California is one of the only states that allows you to use your insurance money to buy without leaving any funds on the table, which is how it works in a lot of other states. If you don't actually rebuild, you can't collect everything that's available. Some adjusters don't understand it, and because it's still relatively a new law, there's still a lot of kind of back and forth about it. So here's a reminder, right? You want to reach an agreement with your insurance company on the dollar amount that it would theoretically cost if you did rebuild the same house, just like we've been talking about all evening, the as was, the measure of indemnity, all that stuff. That includes code upgrade coverage and extended benefits that would have kicked in based on the price of replacing what you had the way it was, right? So if you would have had to make code upgrades to put back the house you had, then you're entitled to that as part of your budget for purchasing the home. And so generally that's what the insurer owes you. This is another one of those areas though where insurers have been a little squirrely on whether on the code upgrade. So they are what some insurers have been saying is, and there's actually even a class action lawsuit pending about this. Um, some insurers have been saying, well, if you didn't incur the cost on buying,
So you
when
didn't
you
have to
bought the
upgrade your
house,
new home.
you didn't have to comply with any codes, then you don't get the money. But we believe, and we think the law is very clear, but apparently insurers are still kind of balking. So this is one of those things though where you have to be an advocate, right? And it says it right here in the code. It says the measure of indemnity shall not exceed the replacement costs, including the building code upgrade of the original structure, right? So we think the insurers are going to lose that argument once it gets to court, and we think that you can save them the trouble by convincing them to do the right thing in the here and now. So to buy, right, you're going to present your insurer with one or more estimates of what it would have cost to rebuild. You want to reach an agreement. Once you've reached that agreement, then you want to find a home that costs at least as much as it would have cost to rebuild. Present that documentation to your insurer, and obviously this can be tricky because of timing, how quickly sometimes you need to grab a house. And so we're here to try to fortify you to get what you need. Okay, I think we're going to have time to open up the Q&A. We've just got a few more slides. So Ben, if you want to go ahead and do that. And if you have additional questions, you're welcome to put them in. So moving forward, this is just a nice little breakout of how a construction project typically should go. This is some more guidance that's available in our library. A reminder that our Annie leads our Survivor to Survivor forums. We've got one coming up in a couple weeks. It's a wonderful opportunity. Annie, do you want to just explain what you do in Survivor to Survivor?
Yeah, it's a safe place for survivors to come and share what they're going through, their challenges, whether it's emotional, it's challenges in the rebuild process or in insurance, and share with others, and then share how you may have navigated something that others have not been successful at. So, you just come and have a cup of coffee with us and relax.
Thank you. Okay. And here is the link to register for the next one on the 21st. Save the date of, so that was April 21st is the Survivor to Survivor. May 21st will be our next one of these webinars where we will have another guest expert panel. We will be talking about avoiding and solving problems during a post-wildfire rebuild. This is the link to the Ask an Expert forum. Alexis is our main coordinator of getting answers to your questions. I want to acknowledge our funders. I'm going to leave this slide up here while we answer some of the questions that have come in. And some of the questions that have come in are more points, not so much questions. So thank you, Lynn, for the 2 points that you make in the Q&A. Hilda's question, do I have to pay to get a contractor's estimate? Matt, you want to take that one?
Do you have to pay to get a contractor's estimate? I mean, there's no free lunch. My mom used to tell me that. We want to try and do this as inexpensively as possible. Amy, I didn't know if I'd be ready to say this, so I can drop a link in the chat if you want, and people can email me. We do have these really, really inexpensive, and Bill and I decided to do it for $99. Really inexpensive estimates. I can't guarantee that they'll work with your insurance company, but they should at least give you a good start. So if you want, I can do that, or they can just contact us directly. But yeah, I mean, we can't just do this for free, unfortunately. I know what you've gone through is really, really difficult, but it takes time to do these properly, and you don't really want someone doing it for you for free because it's not going to be a very good estimate.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Let's start with hold on. Um, just bear with me. Right, these are the link to the spreadsheet we'll put in the chat. Ben, if you can take care of that. It was in one of it's in
Already
the
entered it. He's got the link.
thank you. Okay, let's answer Gary's question. Um, Regarding Army Corps debris removal and the need for a new and deeper foundation or removal and recompacting, my policy includes 10K for land, additional coverages. Um, we will pay up to 10K for the. What do you think of the argument that this 10K covers some of the increased foundation costs? Alexis, do you want to start that? Take that? Yep, you have to unmute though.
Sorry, I was in the middle of answering another question that came in. Can you repeat the question, Amy?
Yeah, sure. So this person has in their policy, USAA policy, a provision that gives them 10K for land under
Mhm.
additional coverages. If the loss causes the land necessary to support the building, we were actually talking about this
Yep.
earlier. To support the building insured under the dwelling protection or other to become unstable, right? I was
Mhm.
saying that's remember I said they will pay
Yep.
sometimes for stabilization, right? What do we think of the argument that this could cover some of the increased foundation costs? So different question, I guess. He needs a deeper, a newer, a new and deeper foundation. So different from, so that's sort of, it's not a code upgrade, right?
It's not a code upgrade, but it is a land stabilization issue. So it could definitely fall under this coverage. It's really about how that is presented to the carrier. So, get some clarity from your contractor and the engineer and the city, if need be, or the county on what needs to happen with the foundation. And you might have to have some help with your from your contractor to kind of pull those actual additional costs aside so that your adjuster can take a look at them and go, okay, that's part of that land stabilization endorsement that they have or that subset in their policy. We can pay that. So information, clarity, and then talk to your adjuster. Communication is always the best way to go and try to find out what they need. And a lot of times your adjuster might not even know that you've got the coverage. That's the biggest thing too. So
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So Lynn makes a couple points. Lynn is sharing that she qualified for the Wildfire Plus standard, even though she didn't have 30 feet between. It's not, I think Reza was talking about 30 feet between your home. Well, I thought he was talking about your home and an ADU or a garage or freestanding. But regardless, it's possible that Lynn, I can't hear you, that you got the wildfire prepared home WPH, but maybe not plus. But it just goes to show you that none of these rules are hard and fast, it appears. And also, Lynn is sharing that she didn't have to put solar on her house. Um, Lynn's asking, are insurers allowed to deny code upgrades? Mine is stalling and it
Wait,
appears to want.
can I jump in there real quick,
Yeah,
Amy?
sure,
I,
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
I just sent you guys the link that shows that structures have to be for the plus
for
have to be 30 feet away. Uh, Again, I've heard that the insureds are willing to move that policy and remove it in the near future. And then again, Title 24 is between your Title 24 engineer and your architect. As a builder, I don't do anything about. So, we were surprised that the client didn't know that they told us I don't want solar, and I told my architect I don't want solar. So when we did their budget, we didn't plan for solar. But when the building inspector comes out and says, "Okay, let me see your Title 24," they said, "Oh, so you're going to have solar." And we said, "No, the client doesn't want solar." Well, in their Title 24, it says you're going to install solar. So you can go back and have to change that, and they have to work on that. So I
okay.
just want to clarify that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Um, Some of these questions, I think we're going to have to do a little more digging, and we're not going to be able to answer them tonight. But we're going to go with Mei Jiang. What is the inflation adjustment that was addressed in the beginning? That is a standard provision in a policy that's usually a pretty small number. Alexis, do you want to speak to that? But unmute.
It is a small number, so you just, again, the communication part of it is super, super important. And uh, as a carrier adjuster for so many years, I would say your best bet, again, is to try to talk to your adjuster about some of these concerns and get an agreement as best as you can about what you need to do and how to support your documents and your pricing and what it's going to cost you. Don't just start doing things and pulling triggers and paying people and assume that your carrier's going to agree on this stuff.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. While I have you off mute, Cameron Brown, the last question. My debris removal coverage has not been taken by the county or Army Corps. Can I use some of it to pay a private debris removal company for a second round of debris removal, cutting pylons, it's jumping all over the place here. Removing driveway. My insurance company says they will approve it, but I want to be sure I won't have problems with the county.
Yeah, you can. It's often the case that there's going to probably be more debris that needs to be taken care of after the first wave of clearing on your property. Either sidewalks get damaged, you have, like you're talking about pylons that need to be pulled out. So get an estimate or get your debris removal private contractor to tell you what those costs are. Make sure to document those with your carrier so your carrier knows that you've got to pay for a second round of debris removal, and then find out from your carrier what needs to be done there. You're not, your contractor is going to have to do work to prep your site to rebuild. Or if you're not going to rebuild and you're selling and you still have debris removal, yes, you've got coverage there typically.
I don't, Reza or Matt, is there any minimum requirement for a certain amount of solar that a home has to have?
Yep. It's in the Title 24 code, and when we estimate, we have to estimate. Well, we don't have to, but we've chosen to estimate to the minimum requirement, which nobody ever gets. People get more, but there is a minimum requirement. It's based on the size and the complexity of the house, but it's in the code. And if people want, I dropped our contact link in the chat. If people want to learn that, they can either Google it or call us.
I think
Okay.
the least amount, I'm guessing here is 250 square feet. I think that's the least amount that it could
Yeah.
be.
It goes by the number of panels needed. Bill's texting me. He's really good at this. Oh no, he didn't know that one. But yeah, he's it's the size of the home requires a certain amount of panels. And so that's what we estimate to that minimum.
I, I,
Most people won't get the minimum.
I want to stress this because could be the newest thing that could be um, a headache for you when you're rebuilding is your Title 24. Really make sure you look at your Title 24 because it may not vibe with what you thought, and your architect may not know that what's in that report. And
Okay.
once it becomes part of your stamped plans, you're expected to do it, including you may wanted a gas tankless water heater, but to make the calculations easy, your Title 24 engineer put in a heat pump. And you
Hmm.
don't want a heat pump, you want a tankless gas water heater. Well, now because of your approved standards, you're going to have to do a heat pump unless you go back and you change that.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
complicated stuff.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to answer Rena Rapetti's question about how to get your insurer to give you all the reports and comments. Um, that is your right under the California Insurance Code 2071. And that's a law that United Policyholders helped put into place a long time ago. We are hearing from some people that their insurers are not complying. That is an absolute file a complaint with the Department of Insurance. If you have made your request in writing, then they are obligated to provide you what you've asked for. If they don't, then you open a complaint with the Department of Insurance. I know that I don't think the law is unclear as to drafts, but there seems to be some, I know there's a piece of legislation pending that re-emphasizes that it includes drafts, but regardless, you take a crack at it, they are obligated legally to provide you with the documents. That was the whole point of the law, is to increase the transparency so that you're not in the dark about what your insurer has got has already gathered about your home and
They
your
like to say it's work product, but not part of the claim.
right. So that is not an exception under the
I agree.
it thank you. Okay.
I'm just telling you what the adjusters say.
Yes, I know. I know. I know. I know. There's one exception for attorney documents that were prepared in anticipation of litigation, but the answer is like their obligation to adjust your claim fairly doesn't have that doesn't mean there should be a lawyer involved, right? Lynn asks, are insurers allowed to deny code upgrades? Mine is stalling and appears to want to deny some. Any suggestions? So I think, a lot of the emphasis that we've been making tonight is on that if you have the proof, right? And Matt, we've given you on our website now, you'll be able to see Matt's research on what the codes are. It's in our library, the LA 2025 Wildfire Help Library, under in one of the sections, and it's also, you'll find it in the slide deck from tonight. It's really a matter of just getting your proof together and giving it to them. Can you clarify for Palisades people if we can bill someone for damage done to driveways during Army Corps debris removal? I think that's one of those questions I think we're going to have to dig a little deeper on, because we're hearing Reza feels pretty confident. Although this is driveways.
Right.
So I think if the Army Corps did the debris removal and damaged your driveway, I would definitely say you take that up with the county. And I'm sure they are processing a lot of complaints about that, I'm guessing.
In their paperwork that you signed that allowed them, you said you waived them damaging your driveway. We've had this battle. It's just
Okay.
take it up with the county supervisor's office.
Okay.
It's
Um,
really messed up. It is.
Okay. Okay. Can my insurance company close my claim without me signing off? They legally can't, but they do.
They do it all the time.
Pretty frequently. So again, this is, this is why we're here, right? To empower you to first DIY, do it yourself. Try to, we give you letters, sample letters for you to customize. If it doesn't work, and you're at the end of your rope, you go to the Department of Insurance, open a complaint. If they don't help you, and there's enough money at issue, the next step would be an attorney, because that's unreasonable conduct if they prematurely close your claim, and you believe that you still have money owed to you. That's bad faith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you explain how to use funds from the contents bucket to cover dwelling costs? Perhaps I misunderstood. Annie, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, it's simply you're capturing your contents, they're paying you, and you get to use that money any way you want. It's not like you can take money that you haven't documented of product that you lost and switch it over. It's just using that, because most people do not replace all of their contents after a disaster. I actually was a little relieved of some of the contents that was gone after my disaster. So you're just going to put that into your rebuild.
Okay, thank you. Gerard Shadrick asks, according to our SBA case manager, access to the 20% mitigation funds will require a loan modification and approval. They suggested we provide SBA a construction estimate detailing all mitigation costs first, as loan modification could take some time. Our case manager was not knowledgeable of how additional mitigation loans apply to existing disaster loans. So We are going to have, I believe, an SBA representative with us at our May webinar. Annie, is there anything that we can offer on this question?
So we absolutely hope to have them as long as they're still working in LA. I can, if you would share your email address, I am happy to ask SBA Gabriel and see what his answer is and get back to you.
Thanks. Okay. Mike is asking a question for you, Matt. Actually, you have your own two questions. Insurance scope of loss, 950K, mine 1.6. They're staying with their amount and saying if no fireplace, then zero for that. Not sure I understand. If I don't incur when I rebuild, they have to pay me anyway. I'm not sure
I think what he's asking is if you had a fireplace before, let's say it was a $20,000 fireplace, and the home he's going to build doesn't have a fireplace, does he get the 20,000? And this goes back to that measure of indemnity. You have to determine what you had before and what it costs to rebuild that. Now that's your number. So if that's 1.6 million or 1.9 million or 2 million, whatever it is, that's your measure of indemnity. You can get your insurance company to agree to that. Now you build whatever you're building. You're never going to build the same home. It's impossible. Even if you have the same plans, it's going to be having to build the code. So it's impossible to build the same home. They know that. Your adjuster doesn't know that. He needs to be taught that. But don't get bogged down on individual items. Get a number for what it costs to rebuild that previous home. That's your budget up to your limit on as far as what the insurance company owes you once you begin to incur costs.
Okay.
That makes sense? Did I answer that clearly? It's a confusing.
I think so. Okay. Alexis, let's have you take a crack at this one.
Sure.
If your code upgrade cost is greater than your code upgrade limit, can extended replacement cost be used for the rest of the code upgrades cost? I'm gonna say
It kind of depends.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I mean, you're hitting your limits for the code, and it really depends on what kind of code you need at that house and how it's packaged with the estimate.
You're going to get it with a clever builder that can, like she says, package that.
Yeah, sometimes it's in the semantics and how you present it to the carrier. You want to kind of put your adjuster has got to get things up the chain. And so they're going to their manager and their supervisor to get these estimates approved. And that often is why things take a lot longer too. When you get an estimate out to your carrier and you go 30 days, 60 days, why aren't they responding? It's typically because they're driving it up the chain of command for approval. And so if you can think from the lens of what does my adjuster need to get this through the management team, how can I present it and package it as clearly and easily as possible, you will be much better served and it will take a lot less time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, our very last question from Liba. My destroyed home was just reassessed for additional 300 square feet on the main house and 100 on the garage and guest house. Can I bring this to my insurance company to discuss being underinsured, worrying about being dropped? Can I ask for additional coverage funds based on this additional square footage? So, okay, so the destroyed home got reassessed. This is
Probably an offline thing.
yeah, I think, you know what? I'm going to ask you to please email your question to info@uphelp.org and we will get it answered, Liba, because it's I think we need a little bit more information here. And we do have a good relationship with the assessor's office. I need to understand why the destroyed home got reassessed with an increased size, folks. So now that you've all been looking at this screen for the last half hour, you know how grateful we are to the foundations that are making it possible for us to have a staff member on the ground in Eaton and send Annie down and Alexis and have me going down and bring you the information that we've brought you tonight. I want to give a huge thank you to Reza and to Matt for sharing your expertise with us tonight and for the for the dedication that you're both bringing to supporting recovery in Los Angeles, right alongside of United Policyholders and our team and all of our partners. So thank you to everybody who signed on. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for taking advantage of what we offer. You know, we are not here to sell you anything. We are not here to tell you that there's one path. We know there are many paths. And on your path, you can count on us to be rooting for you without strings attached. That is the beauty of what we bring. So I wish all of you a pleasant rest of your evening. We are rooting for your recovery. And we always welcome requests for changes in our programming or a new program or something that you want us to tackle that we haven't tackled already. But I do want to remind everyone, these webinars are recorded. We have a YouTube channel. You can watch them. We have them posted on our website. This is part of a series. I think this is number 15. So, you know, a lot of the webinars, and we've also done a lot of live events, but for the webinars, you can go back to them by topic. We cover things in sequence, and we do our best to bring you what you need on your road to recovery. So with that, good evening. Thank you all so much.